last night, Julia and I watched First Reformed, which was a movie that came out last year, and I had been wanting to watch it in theaters, and then the timing of it, I think maybe there was only one theater in the area that was showing it, and it was not a good time, so I didn't end up seeing it. But now it's on Amazon Prime, and so we decided to set aside an evening and watch it. And so we did that last night. It was definitely more my taste than Julia's, based on a lot of the thing. There's a lot of imagery in that movie that I think if you're not prepared for it, it can be too much. And I will say that the reason it was not too much for me was because I watch a lot more things that are intense and graphic. And I tend to have a pretty high threshold for graphic stuff like that. And I think part of the reason that I have a higher threshold is my life background is different. I grew up on a farm where you kind of just have to push through it if you can't handle graphic things because we physically have no choice but to see cows being castrated. So, kind of just got to deal with it. But with all of that being said, if you take out the graphic elements of that movie, the performances were excellent, and I really appreciated the dialogue. It was never clunky, even when it could have been. I think a lot of times when we deal with religious backgrounds in movies, like if you were to feature a character who is a pastor or a choir leader, those types of people are often caricatures in movies, and it can be frustrating because it seems like all other characters in the movie make sense and have good dialogue, and then the religious characters don't. And I think it helps a lot when people who have that background write it. And I haven't done enough research to know what the background is of the screenwriter or of the director for that matter. But I would I would definitely say that it was both convincing and compelling. I think one criticism that I have of it that I realize is a part of the genre, it's tagged as art house along with thriller and a couple other genres on Amazon. There are a lot of shots that go on for about 2 seconds longer than they need to on either end of the shot. So it starts 2 seconds earlier than it should, and it ends 2 seconds earlier or later than it should. And sometimes even more than that. Sometimes it's like 5 seconds longer on one end or the other. And that would be considered in in my opinion a situation where you need to trim the fat a little bit or a lot, and just generally make things shorter. It doesn't need to be that long, it doesn't need to be that boring sometimes. But in terms of the cinematography in general, it was really interesting. The types of angles that they picked were not traditional. A lot of the back and forths were a little bit slower than they might have been in another genre, which was interesting. Not always my taste, but interesting. And I found a lot of value in the various style choices that happen throughout the movie. Would recommend, would not recommend watching it by yourself. Don't watch it in the dark / at night at all. And don't watch it if you are in a bad mental place, because suicide is an extremely strong part, like theme of this movie. I would say it's one of the top 3 themes that are explored in a pretty dense film. So especially if you have a church background, I would say it's valuable to watch this movie and to process it, but process it with at least one other person. Probably another person who also has a church background if you are wanting to get the most out of it. Won't be watching it again anytime soon. It's not one of those movies where you're going to buy it and watch it all the time. No, I probably won't visit it again unless I'm with a group of people who want to discuss it or something, but not for at least a year. It's that type of movie. It's kind of like when I watched The Passion of the Christ, and I will never watch it again because it may be like practically worshipped by certain areas of the Christian circle, but I can't stand it. And won't ever watch it again. So in that way, it may be different than First Reformed, because First Reformed I think was very well done. Passion of the Christ, not so much. I'm not a fan of that movie. Hot take. 13, 14 years late. Also, I had to watch it in middle school, and that was terrible. Screw you, Mel Gibson. Okay, talk to you tomorrow.